Hi, and thanks for joining me. If you watched the last video, you'll know we're having a ramble around the Yorkshire Wolds, and we left off as I was going to have a lunch break at Seaways Cafe because the one at Fimber Woods was closed. I've now come back down to Fimber Woods to pick up the journey there, because just opposite the log cabin cafe there's a little preserved railway. This is the Yorkshire Wolds Railway, and it was set up in 2008 to preserve a small section of the old Malton and Driffield Junction Railway. The line originally opened in 1853 and finally closed in 1958. There's a visitor centre and a locomotive that gives rides up and down the quarter-mile track. It's closed today, but opens on Sundays during the summer. We're turning left now onto the A166 towards Wetwang. We're not actually going through Wetwang because I'm turning off to head south again just before we hit the village, but it is worth just mentioning this unusually named place. There's a couple of official explanations for the name. One is from the Old Norse Vetvanga, or field for the trial of a legal action. The other is that it was a wet field compared to the nearby dry field, or Driffield as we know it. It's recorded in the Domesday Book as Wetuwangha. There is actually another definition of the name Wetwang in the book The Meaning of Liff by Douglas Adams, but as I don't want to get into trouble with YouTube for posting videos with unsuitable content, I'll just suggest that you look that one up yourself or use your imagination. Right, we're heading down the back lanes again now towards the village of Huggett. These are lovely little lanes. You just have to watch out for the mud and gravel of it's a very agricultural area. This is the village of Huggett. There must be something going off here today, because I've been through here on a number of occasions and hardly ever met a car in the past. Today you can hardly move for them. The village name's possibly derived from road to or near the mounds, from the Old Norse words hoga and gata. The old village water well is one of the deepest in the country at 116 yards. That's nearly 350 feet. Now the signs say the road's closed, but it looks like I could see the other side of the closure just a bit further on, so I'm going to see if I can get through. Yep. Don't know what that was about. In 1940, the area just north of the village was surveyed as a possible site for a bomber airfield. Building nearly went ahead, but they actually found a better site at Full Sutton, and we looked at that in the previous video on the way out. In 1943, the Huggett site was used to build a temporary steel mesh landing strip, and it was used to test out this type of pop-up airstrip in preparation for the invasion of Europe later that year. For a week, 2 RAF squadrons were continually landing and taking off using American Mustang planes to test it out. It was also used to give the ground crews experience of working out in the field with no facilities. We're turning off now to go down Millington Dale, which is a narrow, steep-sided valley with Millington Beck at the bottom. This takes us through Millington Pastures and Millington Woods, and it's a really nice ride along this gorge that runs down through the Yorkshire Wolds. It's nicer in spring or summer when all the flowers and leaves are out, but it's still pleasant on a dull winter's day like today. This is a very popular place with walkers, and as you can see here, it's also home to some Longhorn Highland cattle which you see scattered about. We're climbing up the steep S-bend out the valley now, but the GoPro doesn't really do it justice. This is the village of Millington. It sits at the southwest end of Millington Vale. We're at Oosthorpe now, and as we go around this S-bend there's the site of a medieval village on the left. Oh dear, we've got another road closed sign. Well, we were lucky last time, so we'll give it a go again. Of the old village, only earthworks and buried remains are there now, but excavations did show that it had a moated area and a watermill. It's recorded in the Domesday Book as Torp. A later record from 1271 shows it had a fulling mill, That's used in processing woolen cloth. The excavations also found earlier items from the Iron Age, so it was a settlement site for a long time. Well, we're lucky again. No actual road closure there. The market town of Pocklington next. This is a fair-sized town that's been here for a long time. The name can only be traced back to about the year AD 650, but it's thought that people were here as far back as the Bronze Age. It's recorded in the Domesday Book, and at that time it was the second largest settlement in Yorkshire after York itself. The name comes from a person, Postle or Pockle, and Tun, which was a farmstead or settlement. In 2017, the grave of a Celtic warrior was found here during earthworks for a housing development. The grave also contained the remains of a chariot, 2 ponies and a bronze shield, so must have been of someone quite important. It dates to around 320 to 175 BC. In the Middle Ages, the town became quite prosperous as a local centre for trading wool. At that time, wool was England's largest export, and York, just down the road, was a big wool exporting centre. Now, driving round the town, I've actually gone wrong and missed my turning, but we can get back on the right road with a little diversion up the A1079. A left turn here and we're back on track now. Over to our right at the roundabout is Pocklington Airfield. Today it's owned and run by the Wolds Gliding Club, but it started out in 1940 as RAF Pocklington. This was another Bomber Command airfield flying Wellington and Halifax bombers, but operated by the Royal Canadian Air Force. Just before the war ended, it changed to American B-24 Liberators, and it closed in 1946. We're at the village of Allerthorpe now. Now we see a few of the old red telephone boxes on our Rambles, but this one's actually Grade 2 listed. This building next to it's also Grade 2 listed, and it dates from the mid-1600s. This is Walbut Bridge, and it takes us over the Pocklington Canal. The canal was built in the 1800s, but it's currently only partly navigable. The Pocklington Canal Amenity Society are working on its restoration at the moment. We're at Melbourne now, and some of you may have heard of Melbourne Raceway. That sits just to the south of the village, and it's on a remaining runway of what was RAF Melbourne. Yet another Bomber Command airfield from 1940 to 46. It's one of the few airfields that used FIDO, the fog dispersal system, to aid landing in bad weather. Sadly, 109 aircraft that flew out of here during the war were lost. As I've said, today it's probably best known as Melbourne Raceway and for staging drag racing. It's operated by the straight liners who hold drag races at a number of venues around the country. I do remember going to a meet here many years ago. We're approaching the turn-off for the B1228 now, and that takes us back the way we came to Howden, so I'm going to wrap this ramble up here. This turned out to be quite a mixed bag of stuff, so hope you found it interesting. Please leave a like, if in fact you did, and a comment. I always try and answer them. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more of my ramblings, and hit the notification button. Hope to catch you on the next one, so cheers for now.